I'm gonna show you the best way to roast pumpkin seeds, and it starts with a fresh pumpkin. Now this one's pretty big, so I'm going to stabilize it with a towel. So I'm gonna start with a knife I'm comfortable with that's nice and long and a little bit heavy, and I'm gonna use the point of it, starting at the center and the top, and pierce in. That's where I have my leverage. Once I feel that hollow towards the center, I can start working down. And it's all about leverage here. So I'm wiggling my knife, I'm pulling it in and out, and I'm working my way down the side of the pumpkin. And you see once I'm at the side, this isn't the toughest squash, so I'm letting gravity help, and I'm cutting all the way down, and I slide my knife out. You can see I have a nice thin cut line there. I'm gonna find my way towards the bottom of it and work again. Okay. Oh, and I'm gonna break the little top of the pumpkin off. This isn't a jack-o'-lantern, so it doesn't matter. All right, taking my knife out, spinning it around, and I'm starting on the other side. Now, towards the bottom, I have a line coming from the other side. I have my line here. I want to join them so I can fully split this pumpkin. Okay, now I can put my pumpkin right side up and work it open with my hands. And fly pumpkins everywhere. Okay, now we have these beautiful seeds and a lot of pulpy pumpkin strings. And I'm gonna use a spoon and I'm gonna scrape the inside of the pumpkin, getting that stringy flesh and the seeds. Now, I have to my left a bowl filled with water, and the water is gonna help me separate the meat of the pumpkin from the seeds of the pumpkin. Ooh, decoration. Water, you can already see, is helping separate the seeds from the flesh. The seeds are floating, the flesh is sinking a little bit. You're still gonna have to do a little bit of work, but it helps a lot. Some of the seeds are kind of in clusters attached to the strings, and if you just pinch them, they slide right off. This is a fun activity to do with friends or children, or do it yourself. Play the monster mash. So we have most of our stringy bits over here, and I'm going to use a spider to fish these seeds out, because the best way to roast seeds is actually to boil them first. Each pumpkin seed is inside of a hull. So what I'm holding right now is a hull that has a seed in it. And if I were to just roast it, the hull, which is a lot thinner and has a lot less fat, is gonna burn before the seed inside gets nice and toasty and delicious. So you can have a partially raw seed that's not very toasted with a burned outside. What I want is toasty deliciousness all the way through, and a nice hull that attaches to the wonderful flavors I'm gonna add. So by pre-boiling them, I'm starting the cooking process inside of the pumpkin seed before I even put them in the oven. I have a nice pot of water, and I'm gonna add some salt to it, which is gonna add flavor right from the beginning. Your seeds, put them in the water, and you're gonna let them boil for about 10 minutes. Now, you'll notice there's some pumpkin string still left on here. It's not totally clean, and that's definitely fine. A lot of it's gonna fall off in the water, in the oven. Just gonna let these go, cook that seed, pre-cook that all the way through, right from the center before we roast them. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes. My pumpkin seeds are nicely boiled. They're gonna look pretty similar, but all the change has happened on the inside, and that's what's important. They've changed color a little bit. Now, I'm transferring them to a paper towel lined plate. It's really important to dry them off at this point. Now, the heat is gonna help drive off a lot of moisture, but for the oil and sugar and salt and rosemary to stick, we need to get these really dry. While they're drying, I'm going to mince up some rosemary. Rosemary is one of my favorite herbs, partially because it smells so good, that really piney, fresh flavor, but also it's really easy to strip. Now, I don't want a giant mouthful of rosemary because that piney flavor is delicious, but in small doses. So I'm gonna mince them pretty fine. I'm gonna take my rosemary, put it in this lovely bowl. I'm gonna mix the rosemary, the oil, salt and sugar in this bowl with the pumpkin seeds before I spread them out on my baking sheet. I'm using a flaky sea salt here. It's gonna add really delicious texture. When you bite down, you get that salty bite. So this combo is one of my favorites, but really you can put any seasonings you want. You don't even have to use sugar or fresh herbs. You could use dried herbs. A little cayenne or chili pepper would be really tasty for a nice spicy flavor. The world is your pumpkin. I'm patting off the last bit of water from these pumpkin seeds. Then I'm just going to gather up my paper towel and shake them into this bowl. Now for some oil to help all of those lovely flavors stick together. Toss it all together. Shake them into an even layer on my baking sheet. I've lined it with parchment. There's sugar in here and I don't want it to stick to my baking sheet directly. These can take anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. You want to check them every few minutes, toss them around so that they get nice and golden on every side. Just keep an eye on them. Okay, so it's been almost 20 minutes and I think my pumpkin seeds are ready. Look at this beautiful color. A lot of that sugar melted, the rosemary baked. Nice and salty too. And they're not burned, but they are cooked all the way through. Okay, we have a nice crispy seed, toasted all the way through. You know the difference between raw and toasted nuts? That's the flavor difference here. Raw nuts are great, but toasted nuts with that deep, sweet flavor, that's what you want in a crispy pumpkin seed. These are so good.